It's finally 2025, which means the next chapters of Deltarune are, allegedly, coming sometime this year. And if you thought the community has gone crazy in the years since Chapter 2, imagine what it was like when we only had one chapter. Today I want to briefly go over a bunch of old Deltarune theories from 2018 to 2021, the time period between chapters 1 and 2. Because as far as I'm concerned, the only person who got anything right was Scott Falco.
Chris throws you in the cage so you can't stop them from getting out, and because they're sick of you controlling them. The knife is to cut the pie. Duh.
It's pretty interesting to see what people thought of the game and what direction they predicted it would go in back when we only had 1/7 of the full release. Which is totally different from now, of course, as we're trying to predict the ending with 2/7 of the story. So let's dive into all these old theories, point and laugh at how ridiculous they are, and hope all our current theories don't age as poorly. A pretty widespread theory back in Chapter 1 was that the Dark World, singular, was nothing but a figment of the imagination. Everything we experienced in Chapter 1 was just a dramatic visualization of Chris and Susie playing together in the closet. The prophecy, the darkness, and everything that happened was entirely made up by the two friends' imaginations, which is pretty awesome that Chris and Susie have the same nuanced narrative writing skills of the talented indie game developer who made Undertale. I feel like this theory didn't make sense even within the context of Chapter 1. Like, Susie was well established as a bully who hated Chris. Why would they be playing in the closet together? Susie's entire character arc in Chapter 1 is a product of the people she met and the experiences she had. It wouldn't make sense that she just made all of that up and then became a nicer person. Now, obviously, this theory has been well disproven by now, as the Dark Worlds aren't entirely imaginary. I think this theory just kind of formed as an explanation for why the items in the closet seemed to turn into the darkness. At the time, that was our explanation for it. In the end, though, it wasn't the power of imagination, silly. It was magic, or I guess more accurately, determination. Speaking of which... So, this scene... Remember, this was back in 2018. All the middle schoolers way too young to be on Tumblr were obsessed with the funny guy at the end of the genocide route. So you can imagine the insane reaction to what is now the iconic Chapter 1 cliffhanger. The thing is, it's pretty understandable that people would jump to this conclusion. Completely ignoring the fact that this is an alternate universe, Deltarune framed itself as a post-pacifist continuation before alluding to Undertale's genocide route at the end. So most people believe that Deltarune would be a genocide route sequel, and that Chapter 2 would just be Chris going around and doing murder. I don't think we exactly knew that there were going to be 7 chapters back then, or if we did, most people kind of just ignored it. So a lot of predictions for Chapter 2 were just that everyone is gonna die. It's gonna be so edgy, and the UI is gonna be all red, and the narrator is gonna be red text Kara. I think this is a classic example of people making predictions based on what would be cool in a fan fiction rather than, you know, good writing. And actually, most of the theories that aged poorly tend to fall into that trap. Keep that in mind for all your Chapter 3 and 4 predictions. Anyways, one of the big ideas for a genocide route Chapter 2 was that Susie would take a stand against Chris and be sort of the final boss in a sense. A full circle moment for Susie's character growth in Chapter 1, which has since evolved into the idea that Susie would be a final boss in the weird route as she stands against the player's manipulation of Noelle. And maybe Megalovania plays when you fight her. Which brings us to Sarah. Guys, Santa's gonna show up at the end of Deltarune and exorcise the demons out of Chris to finally get his revenge on Kara. But only after we help rescue Papyrus from his older brother slash dad slash grandpa, WD Gaster. To be fair, Sans did ask Chris to hang out with his brother in Chapter 1, but since when did our choices matter in this game anyways? Probably the funniest theory to look back on was people just killing off Rudy in Chapter 2. Again, completely oblivious to the fact that there were going to be more than 2 chapters probably. Going deeper into it though, there was actually a lot of evidence to suggest that Chapter 2 was going to center around Noelle and Rudy, and that the Dark World would take place in the hospital. This is mainly because, between the release of chapters 1 and 2, Toby posted a few teasers for the development of chapter 2 online. We got to see a new outfit for Noelle and even her own theme song, suggesting that she'd have a bigger role in the story and potentially even join us in the Dark World. Look, her sprite has different colored hair! We also got a look at the Fun Gang in hospital outfits, fighting these new antivirus themed enemies. Combined with the emphasis on Rudy's health condition in chapter 1's post-game feeling almost like a teaser for what's to come, which, I mean, it is, it absolutely made sense to assume the next chapter would take place in a hospital-themed Dark World. And of course, I don't think a hospital chapter is off the table either, but I'm not surprised it didn't happen this early in the game. Chapter 2 really felt like it was solidifying the Deltarune formula so that we could have an understanding of what to expect in the future. Each chapter gives us a new Dark World location, a new party member potentially, a secret boss, all that stuff. It'll be interesting to see how Toby expands and iterates on this formula in future chapters. Finally, for possibly the most poorly aged prediction, the Queen seemed like this ominous figure teased only briefly in chapter 1. A bigger, badder evil, greater than the king we just faced. There were mentions of the knight as well, who seemed to be able to create dark fountains, but many people assumed the Queen was even above him in terms of power and authority. A truly looming threat that we weren't yet prepared to face. Yeah, it turns out she's just this goofy internet meme computer thing. Not even related to the card theming of the first chapter, which is also something people thought would continue. It's really funny to see how seriously the fandom treated Queen prior to her reveal, compared to how completely unserious she actually turned out to be. In fact, there's only one widespread prediction I can think of that aged worse than this one, which is that the entire game would be done soon. Like I said, we can only hope that our current theories aren't immediately disproven in the first scene of the next chapter again. The opening of chapter 2 really did disprove a lot of old Deltarune theories. It's almost like Toby loves subverting our expectations in opening sequences. Imagine chapter 3 starts and the knight jumps down. He's his own entity. He's literally like a chessboard knight. And he says, "It's me, I'm the knight, not Chris." And then Chris wakes up in the hospital Dark World. I don't know, I'm curious to see how we'll look back on this era of Deltarune theories. Whether we'll all be heralded as prophets, or whether chess theory and second voice theory are just completely wrong. As you might have noticed by now, this is a brand new channel. It's going to be completely dedicated to Deltarune-related video essays, and I'm going to be posting here every single week until chapters 3 and 4 come out. And of course, when they do come out, I'll probably be posting even more. So subscribe to stay tuned for all of that and to help this channel grow. I don't know, let's see if we can hit 1,000 subscribers before chapters 3 and 4, whenever that may be, who knows, and form a little community of our own. That'd be nice. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week.